Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day. All right, very good. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Julie.
All right.
Hello.
I'm glad you guys are all interested in my open math and creating questions.
Yep.
Yep. So we have a fun
That's sweet.
afternoon.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm not as experienced with Zoom as I am with Collaborate Ultra, so I'm trying to figure out what I want to see.
Good afternoon, Julie and everyone. If for the sake of role and attendance, if everyone can just rename themselves and provide their first and last name on this call, and you can do so by clicking on the three dotted lines above your name, to the right of your name, and you should see an option to rename, or you can go to participants, and if you click more, you should see the option to rename. And if you have any questions, if you could just please put them in the chat box, and I will work hand in hand with Julie to address those questions. Julie, would you like to address those questions during the session, or do you want to hold all questions for the end?
No, I'd like to handle them when they come in.
Okay, sounds good.
So math department folks, if you want to log into my open math and check that you can actually get into this professional development day course in my open math, that would be great because we will be using that today. So everybody in the math department that let me know you were coming should have access to that course. And if you're a first-time user of my open math, I set you up with an account with the password.
Julie, this is Betty Habershaw. I'm an accounting professor, but I have been kind of always continually referred to the math as far as handling homework. So I was wondering if this would sort of share any of that, because we normally use a homework manager through a publisher. So I'm trying to get ideas as we look at moving toward the OER and such.
Absolutely. I mean, it's specifically math, numeric type questions, but if those are the kind of questions that you need, then yes, this would work for you.
Well, and it's focused on problem solving, hopefully, so that hopefully I'll be able to get some tips from this.
Right, yes. I mean, let me know and I can set you up with a My Open Math account and you can browse through the existing libraries, and I'm sure there are, it's not just math, chemistry professors use it, and statistics, and probably accounting. I haven't specifically looked, but
is there a gentleman named Jason in your area?
There is.
Okay, he had mentioned there were some accounting problems in the math, whatever the math system they used.
Correct.
So
I'm sure there are. So if you want me to set you up with an account so that you can search for yourself and see what's available in the libraries, I can do that.
That would be great. When should I do that? When should I send you a note on that? Or when can you do that?
As soon as possible. I may even be able to do it today while people, the people who have the accounts already are working on actually doing some editing. I may have a moment then when I can actually.
Great. What do I
create
need
your own
to
account.
send you?
I need to know your OWL username, basically, because that's the username I've been creating.
Okay.
And that's basically all I need.
Should I email that to you or
Yes.
put it in the chat or do what?
Email it to me.
Okay, I will do that actually right now.
All right.
Julie, oh, wait a minute. What was your last name again, Julie?
Gordon, it's on the screen. Do you see the screen?
Oh, I got
email
off of
and
it.
my name is on the screen.
Okay. Oh, yes, I see it. Julie Gordon. Okay, I'll send it right now.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so it is 2:05, so it is time for the session to begin. So I guess I will begin. Hello, I am Julie Gordon. I am a professor in the math department. Thank you all for coming to this session today. I see many math department folks are here, which is great, and welcome to everyone else who is not in the math department. So this is actually planned over 2 sessions. So we're, the first part is in this session from 2:05 until 2:55. And then there is a part 2 from 3:10 till 4, where we'll be covering different stuff. So I hope that you will be able to stick around for both sessions today. And if you do have any questions, my email is on the screen right here. And say the math department folks who let me know ahead of time that they were planning on coming, I've set you up accounts on My Open Math, and I've given you access to this course on My Open Math. So you guys could go ahead and start logging in. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief introduction of what My Open Math is and why we would be interested in it. So My Open Math is a math homework platform, very much like the ones that we currently use, that our students have to pay for. Regina, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, Julie, you told us to go ahead and log in. What's our username and password?
So I sent you an email this morning, and it has everybody's username and password. Okay. Well, everybody's username, and if you have an existing account with My Open Math, I don't know your password.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. All right. So, so My Open Math is, we've used these kind of things before, but our students have to pay money for them, and it does pretty much everything that those systems do. It algorithmically generates questions, and it automatically grades them, and there are different kinds of questions that you can create. So it does all of that stuff. But it's different because it's free, and so it's 0 cost to our students. So that's a good thing. That's what first got me involved in My Open Math, that we were looking for lower cost, free materials for our students. And at the time I got involved, I wasn't all that happy. I figured that there would be some sacrifice in quality, that we would get what we paid for, and I was not expecting the quality to be as good as the systems that we pay for. And when we started, putting it together, we had a team over the summer of 2019 putting this together, and so we just used questions. There are libraries of questions. My Open Math has been around for a while. There's some more background there. It's, it's created in 2005. David Lippman is the person who started it all up. He's a community college math professor over in Washington State. He started working on it by himself in 2005, and he got other faculty from Washington State involved. And then in 2011, it was kind of formally named My Open Math and opened up to the world. And it's it's a platform where anyone can create a question and save it in the libraries. So there are libraries full of questions created from people around the world. So when we started building our own system for use at PGCC, we were just looking through the libraries and picking the questions that we liked. And they are created by lots of people around the world, and they are of varying quality. So I gritted my teeth and I said, well, it's free, so we'll just deal with this. And we went forward with using it. And so I was very impressed when I did the first semester when I used it, which was, fall of 19, that it made a huge difference, actually, that all of our students have access to it on day one, that, people talk about day one access for the different homework platforms, and it really is. It's a game changer having everybody have access on day one. So that was wonderful. So I was like, well, it's free and they have access on day one, and I'll just grit my teeth on, the varying quality of the questions. And that was how I handled it until in March of this year when we went remote. And then I said, I'm not quite happy with the quality of some of these questions, especially when I'm not seeing my students and interacting with them to kind of walk them through what needs to be done. And I decided I needed to fix some of the questions. And since I've started fixing the questions, I've realized how powerful My Open Math really is, that we actually can do whatever we want with it. So if you can create your own questions, it's really very powerful. There's an infinite number of questions I could create. Anything I can think of, I can create. So I feel like if I ever have to go back to a different system, I'm going to have a hard time with that. I mean, I was looking at the Pearson system right before I started this presentation and looking at their questions. And I mean, so like I was looking at, in 1350, the question about maximizing the area of a rectangular plot of land, that question. So there's a couple of questions like that on Pearson. And, so there's one where you're fencing 3 sides and 1 side's a river. There's one where you're fencing 4 sides. Okay, that's it. I mean, those are good questions, but I kind of love that question. The students have to, figure out what the function is and then find the maximum point of it. So I love that question. So but there's 2 of it in Pearson. There's the one with the 4 sides and the one with the 3 sides. So hey, I'm in class, I do the one with the 3 sides, then I give the one with the 4 sides in the homework, I give the one with the 3 sides in a quiz. Then what am I going to do in my test? I'm going to give the exact same question again? Well, maybe, but since I've been doing My Open Math and I can write my own questions, so then I was like, okay, in my test, I'll go with the one with the 5 sides, the one with a side down the middle, splitting the rectangle in 2 and see what happens there. So it gives me, anything I can think of, I can create a question, an online question. I would have, when we were meeting face to face, I could do things like that, but it would be on paper, so I could have any questions I wanted on a paper test, but on a online test where I'm relying on the computer platform, then I just, if it was a different system, if I wasn't using My Open Math, I would just have to rely on whatever questions are available. But now I can write my own. So I just like having paper and pencil, I can just create questions and write my own. And in addition, you can do extra things. I mean, some of my questions, I put like extra steps in or ask the students of what they're doing. So the question about maximizing the area of the rectangle, I had a little box in there where they had to explain what they were doing, not the step-by-step solution that's on the piece of paper that they upload after their test, but just, kind of explain what they're doing. And so, that was interesting too, because the student who said that she found the derivative and maximized the area, I was like, I think I'll look at her paper when I'm grading, because we're talking a pre-calculus course here. So people who are finding the derivative, they're not using any technique that I taught them. So they looked very closely at her paper, and I got that information from being able to put extra pieces in my questions on My Open Math. All right, so, all right. So
I have a question, Julie.
yes, Sean, what can I do for you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So when you said that you create the questions and then the system automatically grades them,
Yes.
what does that really mean in terms of grading? Does it show them the correct answer? Does it mark it right or wrong only? Does it give feedback like how to solve it, etc.?
That is entirely up to you. So, I mean, we're going to look at some questions, and I am actually a huge fan of providing detailed solutions to my students. And so when we looked in the existing libraries, most questions, don't do that. Some have videos attached. There are lots of questions with no help, but providing that kind of help is an option. And I have spent a lot of time over the past 6 months putting together detailed solutions for the questions that I use so that the students can see a detailed solution. And, as far as the grading goes, it's like Pearson, it grades the question. You can actually set it up. If there are like 5 parts in the question, you can have each one of the parts worth a fifth of a point, or you can set it up so that one part of the question is weighted differently from the others. So there's a lot of flexibility. It really is, up to us what we do with it. All right, so let's see. Does anyone else have any questions about that stuff? All right, so we're going to get into a lot of detail as we move along. So,
Julie, I'm sorry.
Yes, Regina.
Regina had a question again. I put in the chat. Is there a school ID that PGCC has when you're trying to create an ID so that you can verify it by the school ID opposed to getting it, verifying by email from your supervisor or the other method?
I'm sorry, you mean when you're creating an account?
Right, it's saying it didn't recognize any of my usernames.
Oh
So,
yeah, no, some of us have the power to create accounts. So I have the power to create an account for you. Or also Peggy and Maria Jane have the power.
okay.
So yes, we can create, we don't have to go through the MyOpenMath people at this point. We can create our own accounts for people. So if we communicate with Peggy, maybe she knows how to create you an account.
Julie, did you say have power?
You do, you're an administrator on MyOpenMath.
Well, what does that mean? I
It
don't
means
even know what that is.
It means you can create accounts.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
All right. Yes, indeed. All right. So moving on. So at MyOpenMath, we actually do have many. At PGCC, we have many people who actually have been using MyOpenMath for many years. So we have instructors here who teach at different schools that use MyOpenMath. So we have a wealth of experience from those folks. We've had people, copying courses from other colleges and using them at PGCC. So, people have brought their experience to PGCC. I think the 1350 OER that we started in the summer of 2019 with Peggy Beck and Kay Tekamala and Jason Novick. I think that's maybe the first OER that we really created specifically for PGCC. But so there are a lot of folks there with experience, and I've listed some other courses that I believe are developing OERs at this point. That list may not be completely accurate, but I know that Andy Jones created an OER for his 1160 class, which he's currently using, and there are other OER courses in development that will be using MyOpenMath. So there is a wealth of information, a wealth of people who know what they're doing right here in the math department at PGCC. And let's see, so, and in the future, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. MyOpenMath is currently a non-profit organization. And I did a training course with them over the summer. And at that training course, they did talk about the fact that providing the service free is actually not sustainable. They have expenses like hosting, the software on some kind of platform. It's costing them money, so they may not be free forever. They were talking about asking colleges to become contributing partners. So we'll see how that goes. But I do know that PGCC is putting together a plan to use LibreText to maintain our OERs, and so LibreText, you can put together your own textbook, that kind of thing is what it mainly is, but they do have some kind of homework platform involved that I'm not quite sure how that works, so don't ask me. But the one thing that I do know is that the coding language that MyOpenMath uses to create its math questions is called iMath AS, and it's the same coding language that LibreText uses to create its math questions. So knowing that coding language, whether we continue with MyOpenMath or we move to LibreText, they both use the same coding language. So all the knowledge that we learned today about coding in iMath AS is probably going to be useful for many years to come. All right, does anyone have any questions about any of that? All right, so that's the general background. So now, as I say, if you're a math department person who knew you were coming, you should be able to log into this My Open Math course. Here are my instructions. I did email the math folks that I knew were coming. And if you are not one of those folks that I create an account for, I apologize. You can just be observing what we're doing. Is everybody who thinks they should be able to log on been able to log on? All right, and get into this class and just follow along. All right, so nobody is complaining. All right, so everybody should be good. All right, so moving on down here. So this course is specifically about coding. We could have many other sessions about setting up assignments and setting the different settings that you might want to use for homework and for tests, all that kind of thing, and setting up the grade book. Okay, those would be all separate sessions, but today we are looking at coding, so we can look at the true power that we get if we can write our own questions. So here we go. Okay, if you're in the system with me, okay, block one, this blue block. Okay, there are a couple of questions to see here. So the way that you actually, answer the questions. Okay, so here, this is the name of my assessment. See it, number one, that's its name. It's a little link. When we click on that, we get into the assessment itself. Okay, I have to, go do my teacher preview. Okay, I've been doing this before. Let's see, there's some blurb here that we can just ignore. Okay, and there's a couple of questions in this assignment. Okay, they're just solve this equation, x plus 9 equals 5. This question 2 is solve this equation, 4x equals 2. If you are running it yourself at home, the numbers should be different because the numbers are algorithmically generated. Everybody should get different numbers. So you can see here that we have some question help options. I have attached a video, so that's possible to do. And so the students could have a video to help them. I have, there's a written example button, so they could, see there aren't many steps, but I put it together. Okay, so that's what to do. They subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, that's what to do. So there's some help for them, just in case they didn't know how to even start this question. There's the show detailed solution. Okay, so some of this we're seeing now because we're the teacher. Let's see, I think the students would have to wait until they actually enter an answer before they would be able to see the detailed solution to this question. So that would come after they enter the answer. As an instructor, you see this little key here. You can click the key. It tells you what the answer should be. Okay, so it's going to be -4. Okay, so we can click in the answer box and we can enter that answer in. Okay, -4, and it highlights everything in green. Okay, I was correct. Everything is good. And I can show the detailed solution. Okay, it's the same thing that I showed when I looked at the written example, except that this time when it's the detailed solution for this question, the numbers are actually the numbers in the question. And when you just look at a written example, the numbers are different numbers. So it has all those kind of features that you can set up. You can turn them on for different assignments, whether it's a homework or it's a quiz, or you can do whatever you need to do. So in question 2, we also have a linear equation that we want to solve. This one is 4x equals 2. And so when I click in the answer box there, this is the reason I wanted to look at this before we look at the code, just to see what happens. And then when we go look at the code, we'll know what we're looking at. When I click in this answer box, I get a different box, okay? So I get all these possibilities for formatting my answer. Whereas when I was in question 1, let me see, can I reset question 1, get a similar question? When I clicked in the box in question 1, I didn't get any of those. So that's an option. You know, when we create a question, we tell it what kind of answer we expect. And if we expect the answer to be a fraction, then we can set it up to have this box that allows you to enter an answer that's a fraction. So that's like one of the things that we'll be setting up in the code is the format that we want the answer to be in. And, you know, then we, okay, so whatever the answer is, okay, 1/2, 1/2, and we submit the question, there we go, submit the answer, and there we go. So that's what it looks like when you're actually, you know, a student would be doing the homework assignment, something like this. Okay, we've got the special teacher version, but it'll look something like this. Does anyone have any questions about this? All right, so then we, so I'm in, yes.
How do we vary the numbers for different students? I didn't understand, sorry.
How did we do what?
How we enter the question.
Yes.
How do we set up that there is different numbers for different students?
Okay, we're going to look at the code. That happens.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're going to do that. Okay, so now you've seen what the questions do. I just want you to see that and the difference in the answer boxes. Now we'll go look at the code that makes it all happen. Okay, so if you're in, so now we're in this assessment, and I want to go back. So at the top, in this blue bar at the top, you kind of move between the different places in my advanced. I click professional development there and back to my, you know, screen where I've got my welcome and my announcements. And I scroll down, back down to block number 1, numbers. And okay, so it told us here what we were supposed to do. Okay, then I didn't read it. The mission. Okay, try it out. Okay, we just did that, and then B is viewing the code. Okay, so to view the code, we have these little cogs over on the right-hand side that I hope you all see. So on the right-hand side of this box where it says see it, number 1, assessment, there's a little cog. And when we click on that little cog, we get a drop-down menu. And to actually look at the questions, the code, we select questions from the drop-down menu. And okay, so then we get to see this screen where we see my questions. And okay, and there's sort of this whole other sessions about finding questions in libraries. Okay, that would be a whole nother session. You know, we can this is a place where we could search the libraries. I have a special library here, my PGCC Professional Development Day library. It's got a bunch of questions in it. Okay, that's what we're seeing down there. But at the top, we are seeing the questions in the assignment. And so in the purple bar, I've got this little instruction to remind us, okay, this is how we look at the code. Okay, on the right-hand side next to each question, it says action. And if we click on action, we get another drop-down menu. And I own this question, so I don't get the same options as you. You don't own this question yet. So as a non-owner of the question, you get to see something. You get something that says view code. So that's what you're going to do this time. You're just going to view it without any option of editing it. I'm going to go into edit because I own the question, so I don't get to just view it. I get to go edit it. And then we're looking at the code. Okay, is everyone okay? Does anyone have any questions about it so far? All right, so in the code, there are a bunch of boxes. And wait, I do right on the screen. Let me see if I can do things okay on the screen. All right, so we can see there's the first box is this box here, the description. So that's where you type in what the question does, just some words to explain it, so that when you're searching a library, that would be the description that you would see, so you would know whether to select this question. If you don't display a whole library, if you just want to search for specific kind of questions, this is where they, you know, compares your search words with what's in the description. So it was nice if when you're creating these questions, you put in a description which actually describes what the question does using some commonly used words that people would use to search for this kind of question. All right, and okay, let's see, because I need to erase everything. Let's erase, that was clear. Okay, and then we scroll down a little bit and we see some other boxes that we're not going to mess with. So all this stuff about use rights and license, we're not going to mess with that. Okay, we see there is the box, another box that we're not going to mess with, that talks about the libraries that this question is in. Okay, so library assignments. Oh, wait. Okay. All right. Let's see. Am I writing on my screen? Okay, something. All right. Failing to write. Okay. Draw. Okay. All right, there we go. Well, I didn't mean to do that, but okay. I don't really know my way around Zoom. Okay, so here we can select the libraries. We're not going to mess with that. Okay, you guys are going to actually do some coding, and you're all going to save your questions in this library, in the Professional Development Day library. So we're not going to mess with the libraries. And then underneath that, we see okay, question type, and we are going to mess with that. Okay, so it says question type number. Remember back when we ran the question, we got, for the first question, we were expecting an integer answer. And so we didn't get any options when we clicked in the answer box. And that's because we said that our answer was going to just be a number, which means it's either an integer or a decimal. So that we will mess with for other questions. For this question, we wanted it to be a number. And okay, let me see, do I have to click?
But why don't you just put the one option that has fractions also? Because just by not having a fraction option in there, the students are going to know what type of answer it's going to be, instead of letting them work it out to determine what type of answer it's going to be.
That is an excellent point, John. And so absolutely. So if we do decide to go, you know, have many people developing questions, we should absolutely get together as a department and decide what kind of options we want people to see for each question. I just wanted to show you the possibilities here, but you're correct. When we provide these to the students, we should discuss as a department those kind of things. All right. So, and then we get in the next box, we get to where the actual code is that does it. So here we have this common control box that, okay, right here, what's going on? All right, right here, common control box. And in the box here, we see this is the code, okay? So we can see that we have lines in different colors, and the different colors do mean different things. So we see the lines in brown, and they all start with a double slash. And what do you think those lines are?
Comments.
That's right. So those are the comments. So if you just want to put in a comment, you start the line with a double slash. So I've put lots of comments in these programs here that I've written, because I wanted you guys, you know, to have an idea what's going on. I have to tell you that when you look in all the libraries from, you know, everybody who's contributed questions to my open math, comments are few and far between. So don't get too attached to your comments. Let's see, we have raised hands. Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know my way around Zoom. I don't know how to tell who raised their hand. So let me see if I can figure that out. Otherwise, just go for it. If you've raised your hand, go ahead.
I think comments wonderful that there's comment as a programmer for years. That is a make or break of any big project. If some people do not comment their work, unfortunately, their questions cannot be changed, or it's very hard to change them. So when we decide to work on something and create our own questions, at least within a team, there should be some commenting standard. Because otherwise geniuses write something, they disappear, and nobody understands what is there. I've done it for years, just as you did, Julie, and that's why your comments are the comments of professional programmer. My hands up to you.
Okay.
Background shows.
Okay, so yes, absolutely. So comments is really a useful thing. So, you know, writing a quick piece of code is of limited use if you ever expect anyone to ever, you know, adapt it. And I have, you know, with my open math questions, most of the questions I have not written from scratch. In fact, yesterday when I sat down to put together this course for us today, it was the first time I'd ever written this question from scratch. Every other time I have, you know, used someone else's question, just copied it and adapted it. And, you know, so I am very grateful to the people who commented what they were doing, and sometimes a little mad with the people who didn't put in any comments. All right, so we have some comments here, okay, and then we have the blue and the green. All right, so we can see that we have on line 3, written in blue, we have the thing where we randomize our numbers. So each student would get different algorithmically generated numbers. These are the numbers. So this is where that happens, okay, with this difference. So the most important thing you're going to learn today is how to read the manual. And so the manual is this link right above our common control box where it says writing questions help. So everything you ever want to know, the answer is probably in this writing questions help. So we click on writing questions help. Okay, so we can see here that we're using this macro called difference. And we've got like parentheses, we've got 3 numbers after it. Okay, we don't really know what that means, but we know where the manual is. So we click on our writing questions help, and we see that we get this new window pops up. That's our manual. All right, and so we can search through this document. And I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to, but if you click Control,
The document doesn't show on the screen. Document doesn't show.
It doesn't show. Oh no, let me see if I can. Let me see. Okay, that's no good. So it is a new tab. So it opens up a new tab, and I thought maybe sharing the screen. Let me stop this screen share and start a new one, and maybe it'll include that. Let me try that. I'm stopping the share, and I am starting a new share. And let's see, I don't see that tab. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, here we go. I'll share this one then. Here we go. Do you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I guess I'm showing one thing at a time. All right. So we see the help. Okay. So we do Control F, and then this little box at the top opens up, and that's where I put in the word I want to search for. So we were using the difference macro, so I'm going to type in difference, and it's going to tell me all about it. All right, there we go. So let me see, I'm not quite sure that's what we want to do. Okay, keep on going. That's not really a description, that's somebody using it for something. All right, let's see. Here we go. So this is where it's described, difference. So we can see that it explains what those 3 numbers are. Okay, first number is, okay, we're generating random numbers. So the first number is the smallest number that we want to allow, and the second number is the biggest number that we want to allow, and then the third number is the number of numbers that we want to have generated by this. And then there's something in square brackets, and the square bracket things are optional, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, and if we actually scroll back, we can see that, okay, we're in this whole section on randomizers. So we could have got there a different way. There's a whole section on randomizers. Difference is not the only way to generate random numbers. There are many ways to generate random numbers. Depends if you want just one or you want more than one, if you want them to be special numbers or what you want. So like rand is the most basic, or rand. If you just want even numbers, say, then you have this third parameter there, p, that, you know, you would set equal to 2, and then you'd start with a number 2 for your minimum, and then you'd count by 2 is what you're counting by. So if you just want even numbers, you can do that. If you don't want to allow 0 to be one of your numbers, so if your minimum number is a negative number and your maximum number is a positive number, and you don't want to allow 0 for some reason, which there are many reasons why we don't want 0, then we've got non-zero rand. So anyway, so you could scroll through this document and find out all kinds of wonderful information. As I say, let's see, I've got so many screens going on. So the other way to get to information about random numbers, if you're considering, you know, what's the best way to generate the random numbers for your purpose, then when the My Open Math help window first opens up, there is this link here, randomizers, and you click the randomizers link, it takes you right there. So if you don't already have some idea what random number generator you want to use, then that would be what you would do. You just open up the writing questions help, and you click on the randomizers, and it lists all the different kinds of random number generators that you have there. So let me stop sharing this and go back to my code. Let me see. So, yeah, okay. I thought there was a way to share the whole entire screen. I don't know. Okay, well, let's see. Let me just try this. Yeah. What am I sharing anything right now? No, I'm not showing anything. Okay, that's not working for me then. Let's just do it one thing at a time then. All right. Okay. Are you seeing my screen now? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So, so we generated a couple of random numbers down here. We generated a random number B and C. So they're like our variables. Now variables start with this $sign. So we have that. And then we have this actual equation down here inside these parentheses. Okay, so that's where we set up the equation that we want to solve. And so we also, so the equation is inside the parentheses, the x plus $B equals $C. And then we've got all this other stuff here. Okay, so we've got this make pretty disp. So there are all these different display macros that do different things to make things look nice on the screen. And so I used one of them there. And so that when, okay, down in this next box down here, we have what the students actually see when they're running the question. This is basically what they see. They see the words solve the equation. If you remember back when we did it, we saw the word solve the equation. And then the equation popped up, and the equation pops up because we set it up in this box right here in our control box up here. And okay, so that's what pops up as the question. And then we have other things. Okay, so there's some like formatting things to make sure that text appears on a new line when the students see the question. So these angle brackets BR, that's a line break. And there's other things you can do to format down here in the question text. I basically use BR is my main one. I also use HR, which puts in a horizontal line to separate pieces of, you know, one part of a question from another part of a question. That's basically what I use. But there are other things to be used. Okay, so then let's see. So we have this number question at the top. We decided our question was type number. And so one of the things that we should have done would be to go into my manual again and figure out what we have to do if we have a number type question. So I won't go back right now because then I'll be flipping between screens too often, but we'll go there in just a minute. Okay, and some of the things that it would tell us when we go look at this is that if we have a question that's type number, then we have to give it an answer. So if we have to give it an answer, that means that, oh, wait, I don't know what's, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so we have to give it an answer, which is this $answer variable down there. So if you have a number question, it has to have an answer. You have to have $answer, and you have to set $answer up to be the answer that you expect. And that's what, when it's doing the automatic grading, it's going to check whether the answer is this thing right here. Oops, no idea what I'm doing. There we go, right there. Okay, pointing the wrong way. Okay, so the C minus B. So we know that if we are solving the equation, x plus b equals c, the answer is going to be whatever we get when we do c minus b. So that's where we set up the answer. Then there's also some other optional things that we can do when we are setting up an answer, which are, you know, how it's formatted when we show it. So if we want it formatted, you know, in a nice way, we do, okay, we do this other formatting thing, this make pretty display stuff that makes things look in a nice math font. And so that's the basic question. And then we have this other stuff down here where I've got this comment where it says for the detailed solution. So the fact that we had that show me the detailed solution button when we looked at the question, that's because I put in some extra code. And so, you know, and sometimes the extra code that you need for the detailed solution is more than the code that you needed for the actual question. So I understand why people don't do it, but I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of, yes, Jason.
Can I add one little thing here to the answer part?
Yes.
Because this is something I spun my wheels on. it's really important when it comes to the answers, okay? You notice how she put it's C minus B? So she had to first define sort of like the form of the equation and then solve it, okay, in terms of B and C, because my open math does no symbolic algebra, okay? So if you have a more complicated problem, you got to do all the work ahead of time and then type in and then enter your answer in terms of like those variables B and C. Okay, so my open math doesn't, you need like a lot of computing power to do that. So if you have more complicated stuff like for pre-calculus and above, you got to do all the work first, solve it, and then type in your answer. Because like I said, I kind of spun my wheels on this, trying to get my open math to solve an equation. It will not solve an equation when it runs a problem. So you got to put a little extra time in when you're writing these questions.
That's right. My open math doesn't do magic. It does whatever you tell it to do. So
That's it.
you're the person who knows what the question is, and you're the person who knows what the answer is. So, you know, you're not just going to put in a question and have it magically solved. You need to know what the answer is, and then all you're doing is coding my open math to display that answer. That's what you're doing. So you are doing all the work.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is in open math, is there any kind of flow control, meaning like if this then that answer, if else then this?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Because even if we have to do all the entering of the formula ourselves for more complicated problems, even Calc 1, I'm not talking anywhere further, we need good flow control.
Right. So yes, I mean, I have like 5 different kinds of questions for us to go through, and some of them do have the ifs and the wheres. So
Yeah.
yes, exactly. All right. See how we're doing for time. Oh no, my time is almost up actually for session 1. All right. So let me just scroll down. So there's a separate box. If you want a detailed solution, you have to like check all these boxes down here. Okay, it's a thing that it's not required, but I'd like to put them in. That's been my mission for the past 6 months, putting in the detailed solutions. So, but it's not expected, it's not required. You can certainly have a question without one. If you want to have a detailed solution, you check these boxes, you check all these little boxes here, and then you start in this separate window down here, putting together your step-by-step detailed solution, explaining what you're doing. So it's a whole separate piece of the puzzle. All right, let me just one more time look in the manual. Let's see. So we had the display stuff. Let me just look at that. Okay. All right. So that means I have to stop sharing this one and start sharing my new share. Okay, let's try that. Okay, here we go. New share. Okay, do you see the manual again?
Not yet.
Okay, let me see. No. Okay, it says screen sharing is being paused. Let me try again. Okay, over here. All right, so we're good now. You see me now? Okay, so back in the manual, to see the formatting stuff. Let me see. I can't see where. Okay, so it's format macros. Okay, so right at the top, you know, we can just click on the format macros, and there are lots of different macros that we could use to make things look nice on the screen. And you just go through these and you read what level of formatting you need. And so there are several different options that do increasingly powerful stuff. So you pick the ones you want. I use either make pretty, and if that doesn't quite work, if I have like a 1x minus 3 or something, and I don't want it to have the 1, then I go to the make XX pretty. Okay, because some of them can handle like having a 1x and just turn it into an X, and some of them can't. But there's all different kinds of formatting stuff right there that is in the manual. So there are many options for formatting. Let me stop that share and go back to my other share. And here we go, and share this. Okay, so and then if we compare that stuff with the other question that we looked at, the one where the answer was a fraction. Okay, so here where my questions are listed, we see actually that their type is listed right here in in the middle. Let's see if I can do some screenwriting. All right, let's see. All right, so we've got the first question. That was the one that was the number. And then the one that allowed the answer to be a fraction is called a calculated number type. So we see that. We also see here, I should have mentioned some of this earlier too, that over here in this column, we can see whether there is a video attached to the question and whether there is detailed help attached to the question. Those two little icons there tell me that there are for these questions. And let's see, so if we look in the second question, the one that allowed the fractions, that's question 2, and we hit edit and we clear my screen. All right, so we can see, okay, we've got the comment, okay, it's in the same library. We can see here that the question type that we have this time, okay, so you actually get a drop-down menu. So when you're selecting a question type, you get this drop-down menu for question 1. I selected one right at the top. Let's see, I'm not seeing it. Okay, here we go. I selected the number type right at the top. There are many, many types of questions, okay? So we've got the number, we've got the calculated number, which basically means it'll format your fraction or put in a square root or something. And then we have other kinds, okay? We've got multiple choice, we've got, you know, making graphs. There are lots and lots of different kinds of question that we can set up. So the answers can be in different formats. So this one was the one with the fraction. Okay, there isn't a whole lot different. Let's see, so we used the random number generator here. Yeah, okay, we used our random, okay. We used our random number generator, I'm sorry, right here, our difference. We used our make pretty disk, that was one of our display macros. We did have some extra stuff for the fraction stuff, like here we had to use this macro make reduced fraction to make our fraction look nice. And okay, so we use so as it gets more complicated, you need to rely on that manual, the writing questions help more and more to find different kinds of macros that can help you. As I say, most of this, I mean, I've looked at lots of other people's questions, and I pick up things by looking at lots of other people's questions has basically been my technique for becoming familiar with this. But I did do a little course over the summer, so that helped a lot too. Because there's only so much you can do at looking at other people's code, but I did learn a lot from looking at other people's code. Yeah, I basically knew, you know, so the different kinds of things that you can do with. All right, and all right, okay, and so that was pretty much that. Let's see. So we'll.
So Julie.
Yes, Andy.
This is Andy.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that so people aren't scared off in the formatting of the question text. Yes. You can change to that editor so that you can do all the formatting like you normally do on email, like with HTML.
True. Yes, indeed. Yes. So it can help you with the formatting. All right. Let's see. So thank you, Andy. So if we go over here, okay. So all right, so we're not going to get through everything, but we can try and get through some of it. And I would like you guys to try something yourselves. So if you go back to, remove that. Okay, so if you go back to, so those of you who are in the My Open Math classroom with me and want to do some editing, if you find this where it says block 1 numbers and you scroll down to where it says do it, this is your chance to actually do something. So we click on the cog again and we select questions again. And then, okay, it's the exact two same questions that we looked at. And then there's some, I put in the purple, some different instructions, what you have to do if you want to edit your own code. So if you're interested, okay, we're getting ready for the break, but over the break, those of you who actually want to try editing code, I encourage you to do so. So the way to edit your own code is to pick one of these 2 questions. Okay, I've got the one where I've got x plus b equals c. I've got the one where I've got ax equals c. Pick one of them, whichever one you think you want to make better. And then over here on the right-hand side where it said action, the first time through, you just did view code because I didn't want you messing with the code. This time, what you should do is not where it says, make your own copy. Don't do that. Go to where it says template, and you want to make a template of the code, which is basically your own copy of the code. If you say edit my own copy, it replaces the version that we see here in the assignment, and we don't want to do that. If we say template, it creates your own copy, but it doesn't automatically put it in the assignment. It doesn't replace the one that's already in the assignment. When you're saving it at the end, it asks you if you want to add it to the assignment, and you can say yes, and it will be a second copy in the assignment rather than replacing the one that's already in the assignment. So that's what I want you to do. If you just click template, and then you can do something exciting with the code. Make the second one, make question 2, always have an integer for an answer rather than a fraction. If you pick your values of A and C correctly, you can turn it into a question that has an integer answer. It would only have to be a number type question instead of being a calculated question. Make a question that does the whole thing, AX plus B equals C, something like that. See if you can make something exciting of your very own. So you want to do the template, not the edit the own version. If you do the edit your own version, it's okay. You can't mess with my copy of the question in the library because the question in the library belongs to me. So the only person who could delete it would be me. So you're not going to actually delete it. It would be fine. It would just mean that I would have to go into the library and retrieve it from the library to show us if we wanted to see it again. And it would mean that the other people who are trying to edit things wouldn't see my questions in this assessment anymore. All right. So it is actually 2:55. So we are on official break until 3:10. So as I say, this is a great time for those of you who want to practice some programming of your very own to do that. Does anyone have any questions? Is anyone actually trying to do them in programming and need help with anything? Otherwise, we'll resume looking at new questions at 3:10. So this is just like my time to help anyone who's actually trying to do some coding. Okay, does anyone need me for anything? All right, so I'm going to turn off my video briefly and mute myself because my dog is anxious to leave the room. I'm going to go take care of my dog for a minute. Okay, but I'll be around, so let me know if you need help with anything.
Is the second part going to be in the same Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
So you just need to stick around or, come right back. Go take your break and come right back. We'll be here.
Yeah, my break is me editing 2410 problems. I'm sitting here editing problems while you're talking.
All right. Yay.
How are you, Mom Julie?
Hello. Who am I talking to?
Jocelyn.
Who? Oh, Jocelyn. Jocelyn. Hi, Jocelyn. How are you doing?
Good, good.
All right. So you're getting ready to create your own questions? You don't just have to use mine.
I just used yours.
No, that's okay. You don't need to just use mine. You can make your own. Anything you want.
Oh no, actually, I grabbed some questions from the library.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good start.
Yeah, but I wanted to really. That's why I attended your training because I want to make my own.
Yes, it's really useful when you can make your own questions. It gives you, anything you want to ask, you can ask. Anything you see in a book, anywhere, you can make that question and,
Yeah, but
and provide it to them.
Mom Julie, this is recorded, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you'll give us the recording later, right?
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, because this is Zoom. Okay.
Yeah, because it's Zoom, so I don't know. I don't know who does what with the recordings, but it is being recorded.
Okay. Thank you.
Since we got a break, I can ask you something.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, okay, so in the 104 OER, the 104 shell, 7.1, simplify rational expressions, you said, do not use, these are ancient questions, they are not ADA compliant. New questions can format rational with numerator, denominator, and one answer box. So just because some of those, it looks like I could just take the questions and then just fix them so that instead of like like a numerator and denominator, they just enter one answer.
That would be much better. That would be a great improvement.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
What is it about the ADA compliance?
I mean, that's what David Lippman, he talked about that during the training course that I did, that table formatting I mean, I don't know if those specific questions are, but I mean, he talked about different questions like that, where people format their screen and it looks beautiful, but they use tables, and then when a screen reader attempts to read it, it really doesn't make any sense when the screen reader is kind of describing what's in, row 1 and column 1, and
I
it
see.
just doesn't help. It doesn't help the student who needs the help because they're bogged down with like the location of different pieces of text, and it doesn't help them understand what the real problem is.
Okay, I get you. I'm looking at one right now. Yeah, it's using an HTML table with all this extra styling inside.
Right. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
absolutely discouraged. Anything with all that table formatting, just if it's not an actual table, if it's just done to make the screen look good, don't do it.
Yeah, because it looks like some of these questions are probably, I think they're sufficient, like they'll work. It's just they have to have that part fixed.
Right. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Helen, you have a question?
Ну ладно, сейчас пойдем помучим. Hello, Julie. I have a question.
Yes, what's the question?
Oh, Julie, is it okay to ask a question now?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost connection for a minute here, but everything restored. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. No, go ahead.
Here, I'm just trying to figure out if I understand things correctly. Because I was looking at other MOM courses, especially kind of higher level I'm more interested in if we can use
Right.
for, I know, differentials, linear algebra or something.
Mhm.
Because I cannot program their kind of formula in, yeah? My understanding is how it works for my Pearson or any other, you know, publishers, that they, on the background, they have, Pearson, I think, has Mathematica, or they have some kind of symbolic solver.
Okay.
And so they're kind of Math Excel or whatever they name it, language is sort of sitting on symbolic solver.
Okay.
Is it correct understanding that with MOM, and I'm sorry, I don't have much experience at all, that we don't have any symbolic solver on the bottom?
I am not sure. Maybe Jason. Jason, do you know?
It's called Sage. It's
Oh,
built.
Sage, I know Sage. I programmed in Sage. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's
Sage
yeah. They
is-
have yeah. It's Can you go
Oh.
to? Can you go to? It's in the. Can you go to the writing question help, Julie? Since we have time, you can show. Can you show her?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it's okay between the sessions to ask my stupid questions.
I just have to move
It's
my
not a
screen
stupid
around.
question, Helen. I told you I spun my wheels on this because I was trying to do something and I was trying to get my open math to just do the algebra for me. And it turns out that it won't do it. And I found a post by David Lippman saying he specifically never wanted symbolic manipulations
Oh.
in the problems because of how much power they take, a
Yeah,
laptop.
yeah, I know. That's why Pearson has Mathematica on the bottom, yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why it's
exactly.
not free. But
Solver.
Sage is free. I know because okay, disclosure. My granddaughter's calculus class works with Sage programming, so I did a lot of assignments.
Go
I
down
can
to,
do Sage.
So
go
Jason,
down to
what do you want me
solver. Yeah, go down to solver.
go down to
Yeah.
solver? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's it.
where it is. Okay.
Yeah, because what it'll do is, Helen, is it'll do the manipulations for you while you're working on the problem. So that way you don't have to do the algebra yourself. So if you have like a more complicated equation, so you can just type in the equation and then the Sage will find the answer and then you can enter that answer into the MyOpenMath.
Yeah, I understand. So that's exactly what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Symbolic underneath the language.
Exactly, yes. It just
You know, like
won't-
with databases, you have PHP on top of SQL or something like
right.
that.
It's just not going to run when the problem runs. This is
Yeah, I see. Because
That's the
Sage
thing.
is very slow. Sage is very slow.
exactly because you can run it while you're just writing a problem. It's not going to work when the problem runs, because if you think about it, you might have 1,000 students working on that one. You might have 100 students working on that particular problem at any time. So that would mean like 100, you would have to have the symbolics going times 100. So you just work on it. You just use it when you're working on the problems. It gets you the final answer or does all the simplifications, and then you just take its output. You just enter that into your answer. That's all. I see.
But it
helps you
has
when you're writing problems.
limitations of Sage. Okay,
Yep.
because I tried to do linear algebra on Sage, and a lot of things Octave or MATLAB can do, Sage cannot. Okay.
Oh, it can't.
Oh, maybe I don't know yet. I'm learning.
I played around with it for about a minute and just decided I just do everything by hand anyway, because I'm old fashioned like that. So whatever.
Not everything you can do by hand. I can do linear algebra differentials by hand.
All right.
Exactly.
So-
You need it.
okay, guys. So it's, I
Okay,
guess
but
it's,
thank you. You answered my questions very fully, and I understand the situation much better now. Thank you. It's clarified a lot.
yeah, thank you, Jason. All right,
No
so
problem.
it is 3:10, so I guess we'll start looking at some other questions. So if you're in my course and you scroll down to, we'll skip block 2, we'll go to block 3, where it's talking about functions. So questions where the answer isn't just a number, it's some kind of function. So if we go look at these, oh wait, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to run it. Okay, here we go. Where are my functions? Okay, let me just click in the link and then we'll just run it. And okay, here we go. All right. So we have here 2 questions, and you see we have question 1 and question 2, and they are basically identical, except that one of them is a good question. Question 2 is a good question. As you'll see at question 1, it says, this is not a good question to give to your students. And so one of the problems when we're looking through the libraries is that it's not clear which are the good questions and which are the bad questions, because both of these questions, they look the same. I could type in the correct answer. Let's see, 2x minus x minus 4 minus 6. I could type in the correct answer. And okay, it's telling me that one's correct. I could type in the correct answer to question 2. Or there we go, then negative 3x minus 4 minus 5. And it tells me that's correct. Okay, so you know they look good. They look like solid questions. They look like identical questions when I'm running them. But question 1 has a problem that's not immediately obvious. And let's see if I can do again a similar question. Let me go through the thing. Okay, so if I look at question 1, as I say, it has a problem, and the problem is that I can just type in the original question and it's going to mark me right. So I can do absolutely nothing and it's going to tell me it's correct. So that's kind of a problem, and it's because basically unless you set up the MyOpenMath, unless you set up the code to do some special stuff, it's basically when it's checking whether an expression, you know, is correct, it's just it does something where it like runs through the numbers from -10 through 10 and puts them in what the student said the answer was, whatever that expression was, and then it puts them in what you said the correct expression should be, and it just kind of compares them. And so it works out in cases where we actually don't want that to be the answer. And question 2, that should not happen. Let me see. So if I try and just retype the question in question 2, it's gonna tell me it's wrong. So okay, submit. Okay, so that one tells me it's wrong. Okay, I don't get away with that in question 2 because question 2 is not a bad question. And I get away with it in question 1 because question 1 is a bad question. And I'd say it's not completely obvious just by looking at them which ones are the good questions and which ones are the bad questions. So there are some pitfalls here when we start writing questions that you do have to do some, you know, stuff to make sure that you have good questions rather than bad questions. And let's see, I keep moving this thing around from side to side. So if we actually look at the code, which is going back to my block here and clicking on the cog and getting the questions from the drop-down menu, if we look at the bad version of the code, then we see that, okay, it's really straightforward. We use our random number generators. Okay, I used a different random number generator this time with a non-zero difference. Okay, I didn't want my coefficients to be zeros. Okay, and I you know, wanted my two coefficients of x in the 2 expressions to be different numbers. I wanted my 2 coefficients of my 2 constant terms in the 2 expressions to be different numbers. Okay, this looks, you know, okay, so I've used slightly different versions of my random number generator. I've used a slightly different version of my display macro, but we can see that, you know, what we have to do is we add together the 2 coefficients of x, we add together the 2 coefficients of, you know, the 2 constant terms, we, you know, format it nicely and we have our answer. And okay, so that was straightforward. That would be what you would expect to do, but say it doesn't get the job done because it allows a student just to type in the two original expressions without actually adding anything. And we don't want that to happen. So in order to make sure that that does not happen, we look at question 2. And in question 2, we see that we have got a couple of extra things going on. And the most important extra thing that's going on is annotating go. All right, let's see, am I annotating? Okay, this is the most important extra thing that's going on. Is this right here? This variable would require times. So if you're going to play around with questions where the answer is not just a number, where it's some kind of algebraic expression, you need to worry about your required times. And then, all right, let's see, and then we have where at the top. Okay, so we'll talk about the where later. Let's talk about the required times first. So if we go look in our manual, let me stop sharing this. Yeah, stop that share, start my new share so we can see in the manual. And see, we are looking at required times. So okay, so if we scroll down in the question help, we can see the different kinds of questions. And we're looking at a function question, one that its answer is not just a number, but it's some kind of algebraic expression. And we can see it tells us all about function type questions here in the manual that we have to have an answer. Okay, so there's required variables. We need to have an answer somewhere. And so if we're looking at my code, somewhere there's a dollar answer. Okay, so we've got that. And then there are other things which you don't have to have, but they are available to you, optional variables. And so this one here, the required times, is invaluable. You can see the description goes on a long ways. And so this is the one where we can make sure that the students did something and didn't just type in the original problem, okay, that they actually did something to combine the like variables. And so we have to have this, okay, required time is a list. So you have the quotation marks, and then you have some symbol that you require, and then you have a comma, and then you have to say how many times you expect to see that in your answer. So this is another thing where you actually have to be smarter than you have to know what the answer is that you are looking for. Just hoping that my open math is going to do all the work is not going to fly. You have to decide what you expect in your answer and make sure that it's there. So it's all possible. So I decided down here, let's see, let me close off the manual, stop sharing the manual and go back to my code. All right, here we go. So I had to make some decisions, and you might have made different decisions, but the decisions that I made is that I made the decision that, I start off with an x in expression 1 and an x in expression 2. And at the end of it, I want them to combine it in 1x. So I said, there's going to be just 1x. I need exactly 1x in the answer, not 2. I start with 2 x's. I start with an x in, expression 1, and expression 2. And so this is how I know they combine their x's together into a single x. As part of that, I had to do some other stuff. So you have to think your way through these to make sure that they happen correctly. So there are situations when I'm adding two polynomials where the x would legitimately disappear if I was, if I had 3x plus 1, and then I'm adding, negative 3x minus 2, something like that, then the x would legitimately disappear. And if I just had the same way of generating my coefficients of x that I had originally, that could happen. That's where I put in this extra piece of code here, this where thing that I'm not going to allow me to get 0 when I add together my two x terms. That's not going to happen because I put that where in. It's stopping that from happening. I'm going to keep generating random numbers until I get a situation where B1 and B2, the two coefficients of x, don't add up to 0. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. That's like an example where you have to think these things through. and think of every possible situation that could happen and then prevent them from happening. But I'm sure that you guys could think of other ways, not just saying require times X, that I need 1X in the answer. There's probably other ways that I could have done this. Does anyone want to suggest any? What else would prove that somebody had added together the two expressions? Okay, well then I'll assume I made a good decision. Okay. But you know, if you were making a question like this, then you have to think about those kind of things. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Hi, Julie. I have a question. This is
Yes.
Nivedita. So I understand that they have to add the X because they want X only one time. How about the numbers? So how they will know they're just not gonna type 1 minus 2, not
That's
just
correct.
negative 1.
That's correct. I'm not checking for that. So if you want to check for that one too, then you would have to think of something else. So, I mean, at some point you have to start limiting what values you're allowing in the question in the first place, because if all of my numbers were positive numbers, then I could, you know, so I mean, okay, Constance, you're right. All right, so if every number was, if it wasn't allowing negative numbers to be generated, if every number had to be a positive number, then I could do a different check. So if I knew that I only had positive numbers, there was no possibility of numbers disappearing. If I had like 3x plus 1 and then plus, you know, 4x plus 7, something like this, then I could check for something like only having 1 plus sign at the end. Right now I've got 3, and I could only have 1 plus sign. But so I mean, you have to decide what you're willing to give up in order to have a good question. You do have to give up just a little bit. Okay, so you would I could maybe, you know, check that there's only 1 plus sign, but then I would have to make sure that my constant term didn't disappear. I'd have to restrict it so that C1 plus C2 didn't add up to 0. So something else would have to happen. But you're right. If you truly want to check for everything, then you have to think very deeply. Yes, there's a lot to think about.
And also, you don't need, like when you wrote B1 times X, you don't need any multiplication sign for that. You just type B1.
That's right. You don't.
Okay.
You can just do it that way. You don't need to have the multiplication sign.
Okay.
Because we're not actually multiplying. I mean, this is just it's really just a string. We just want the string to match. We're not actually multiplying B1 by X. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Julie, on a question like this, would it be better to do a string than a number function?
It might be. I mean, as I say, there are lots of things that you can, you know, play with, but just be aware of some of the, I just wanted people to be aware of some of the things that can go wrong.
Right,
right. You know, it seems like you'd want a function for this, but there are things that can go wrong that you have to guard against.
Right.
So, yeah. And, you know, as the programmer, it's up to you, because my open math is not going to take care of this stuff. You have to be one step ahead all the time. But yes, I'm sure there are many ways to do this stuff. All right, let's see. So all right, I don't know. Did anyone do any coding during the break? Apart from Jason. I know Jason was coding during the break. All right. Okay, so I'm not sure. You guys are going to code later. That's going to be your homework then, coding. So we don't really need to.
Nothing else to do, absolutely.
Exactly. But I'm just like checking. Do we need a coding break now, or I'm just going to carry on showing you questions? And I guess I'm just going to carry on showing you questions. All right. So we'll see at the end if there's a coding break at the end. All right. So then so then let's see, drawings. All right. So we have questions where we can have the students draw as a graph. So here are a couple questions where they're going to draw me a graph. Let's see. And because we have graphing tools, and so we can have a question like this. Okay, graph this function, this rational function, and we have a little rational graph icon down there. And okay, you play around with it, you move it around. It's set up so that you have to position the vertical and horizontal asymptotes first. Let me see. And let's see, so x, okay, that -1, okay. And then when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 1. So you basically position the asymptotes, and then you click one point on the graph, and it just kind of magically happens. So the graphing tool on my Open Math, it can draw a graph. It can draw a rational graph that has one vertical asymptote and one horizontal asymptote, basically. And then we submit the question, and okay, so that was okay. That's not my favorite graphing of a rational question. We have another one down here, and we can see that, okay, we've got the large graphing paper. We're going out from, out to 10 instead of out to 5. All of those things you can control. You can make the graph, look exactly how you want it. Down here, we have 3 different options of kinds of graphs we could draw. And so that's kind of thing like John was talking about, what we should have in the answer box. If we, have lots of people coding these, we should probably have some kind of standard about, do we just want to give them the icon for the kind of graph we want them to draw here? If it's a rational graph, do we just want a rational graphing icon to appear, or do we want some red herring kind of graphs so that they actually have to pick the right kind of graphing tool? So there were, things that we would have to decide what we want. So there's one, let's see so once again, we click on it, let's see the asymptote is at +4, we click on this. Okay, it's hard to tell if you're at home playing with this in your own time. I actually prefer this graphing tool, and that's because it actually, this one will only snap onto integer coordinates, okay, where the grid lines cross over each other, and I actually find that much easier to use. And the previous graphing tool was all over the place. There was no snap to grid involved. So snap to grid is a thing that you can turn on or off, and I generally do turn it on. Let me see, where's my graph when x is equal to 3, we're at -1, like that. And then we hit submit, and there we go. So as I say, there are things we can do with graphs and make them look different. The code to make graphs is actually one of the more straightforward things that you will do. It's actually, with the functions and making sure our answers were, matched what we expected. I had to take all kinds of things into account. The graphing stuff is actually really straightforward. So let me see. Okay, we'll do this one where I put in a step-by-step solution. So, okay, we can see that we made this question be a drawing type question. So that's what you have to do if you want the answer to be a graph. If it's a drawing type question, it means the answer will be a graph. Then we have, okay, so there's some code I put in here that controls the size of my graphing paper, all that kind of stuff. So all of this stuff down here is where I've got the X-min and all of this stuff, so that I can, where are we? So that I can set up the size of the graphing paper, and basically none of it's that necessary. I could get away without having any of this here. Okay, the only thing that you absolutely need when you're doing a drawing type question is you better ask the question. That would be in the question text box down here. Okay, and that's a one-line thing. Graph this function and just show what the function is. Okay, that's my function string. And then have an answer. Okay, and the answer is just, so it knows it's a graph, and so the answer is you tell it the name of the function, and it's going to check that the graph is that actual function, and everything below my $answers is extra stuff for formatting and making things look exactly how I want them to look. And And for my detailed solution, I say half this code is for my detailed solution. For my detailed solution, where I went step by step, I was, here I have my blurb down here for my detailed solution. And for my detailed solution, I wanted to be in words, tell them where the asymptote was. So then I kind of needed to know where the asymptote was. So I needed to do some extra stuff to get the detailed solution going. I needed to, be able to tell them what point I was clicking on the graph. And so I needed some extra code to do that. So as I say, half this code is about the detailed solution. The actual code itself, maybe I should have looked at my other questions. Let me just go back and look at the really straightforward one. Okay, let's get rid of that. There we go. So the minimal amount of code that you need to draw a graph is this, okay? It's basically 5 lines of code will draw you the graph. And yeah, okay, there we go. There we go. And then we have this extra thing. So basically, as I say, this right here, we come up with our rational function, our 1 over x plus a. We do some formatting stuff. So when we ask the question, it looks nice. The answer is the graph itself right there. And we have this extra stuff at the bottom with the answer format. And that's where you set up what kinds of graphing icons you want the students to see at the bottom of the graph, whether they just want to see the graphing icon for making a rational graph, or whether you want them to see a bunch of other kinds of graphing icons and have to decide which is the right one for a rational graph. And let's see if I stop sharing this screen and go share. Let's see, stop sharing and go share my manual again. Still there, yeah. Okay, wait, where's my, here we go. So for the question help for the sharing stuff, so if we look at a drawing type question, that's what it's called when we're doing a graph. It shows us here that we have to tell it what the answer is, which is just basically telling it the function that we're graphing. And then we have these other things. Okay, so one of them is this $answer format. And if we look at this, we can see all the kinds of graph that could appear down there. So we can do like straight lines, and we can do x cubed graphs and absolute value graphs and cube roots and sine and cosine for a trig graph, which is a bit of a problem because it doesn't do tangent. So you have to do tangent by doing a sine over cosine. We can do exponential graphs, we can do log graphs, we can do rational graphs. We have a large choice of the kind of graphs that we can draw, and say we can put them on different sizes of graphing paper and do different things with them. Okay, here's my snap to grid stuff that makes sure that I can only click on like a point with integer coordinates. All of that stuff appears in the manual. And if you're going to do any coding, you should absolutely be reading the manual. And does anyone have any questions about that? And okay, so let's just look at another kind of question, and then let's see. All right, so here is another kind of question. All right, block number 5, see it, number 5, intervals and n-tuples. So, all right, so this one, the question includes the drawn graph, and then the student has to find some information from the graph. So, so we are able to, not just provide graphing paper and expect the student to draw the graph. We can show the graph. So here is a beautiful graph of a, square root function, and we have answer boxes down here. So where we can put in the domain and the range. And so these are special kinds of types of questions. These are intervals. So we set this up to be intervals. Okay, so if you have an interval type question, when you click in the answer box, you get to see the, different, whether you've got square brackets or parentheses to put your interval in. And we've got the infinitives and the negative infinitives. We've got the union symbol for combining together intervals. So we have all of that stuff. In the range box, I set it up slightly differently. So there are two options when you have when your answer is going to be an interval. It's either just a straight interval where you expect the numbers to be integers, or else there's the one where we allow the numbers to be fractions or square roots or some kind of number that requires some formatting. So that's how I set up the range. So those are your two different options when you want your answer to be an interval. And we see that we actually have two answers here. All of the other questions that we looked at just had a single answer. This has got answer A and answer B. And so that's another thing that we can do. We can have multiple answers. So you can take a quick look at the code to see how that's done. And then we have, we have different ways of graphing. Okay, so I love my thick red graphs. Okay, so if you ever see a thick red graph, it's probably because I wrote the question, because I love my thick red graphs. Doesn't have to be a thick red graph. The default is that it's just a thin black graph. So so we get to control what our graphs look like. This one is, okay, we want the coordinates, and so you want to enter an ordered pair. So down here, giving, it's expecting an ordered pair, but it calls an ordered pair an n-tuple. So I'm not sure how useful that is to the students when they see that popping up in their answer box, that they're supposed to enter an n-tuple, but that's what we have done in that question. All right, if we look at the code for these, down in block 5. Okay, looking at my code. All right, look at my questions, look at my code. All right, so so if you want to draw the graph yourself, then we would be down here doing a show plot. That's how you draw the graph yourself. And show plot has a bunch of parameters, some of which are necessary and some of which are not necessary. And I pretty much went with every last parameter there, but they're not all necessary. So we have different things that set up, what minimum x's, what our maximum x's, those kind of things. It's like setting up the window on your graphing calculator, basically. And how big we want the window to be. And I think 300 is actually the default. So I didn't need to set up any of those. Okay, but pretty much I think the default for x-min is -5. So I did change that. This is where I do things like make my graph red. That's where you pick your color for your graph. Okay, so you would have to go in the writing questions help guide and see all the parameters for show plot if you want to draw any graphs yourself. And all right, any questions about that? And right here is where I decided what function I wanted to graph. So see, we have got 10 minutes left. So, okay, this time I'm serious. Why don't you guys change that graph, my question 1 and my do it number 5, and why don't you change it, not necessarily to, give the correct answer, but why don't you see if you can change the show plot so that it draws a different kind of graph. Right now it's drawing my square root graph, but you could play around with different functions, try and get it to draw, x squared or absolute value of x. And let me know how it goes. Does anyone have any questions for me? And I hope this was useful to you guys. It really was the nitty-gritty of writing code. There's no easy way to do this. So I hope I didn't put people off. I hope some of you are still interested in getting involved in the nitty-gritty on either MyOpenMath or LibreText and creating your own questions, because it really is you know, a really useful thing to be able to do, especially when we are, you know, teaching these remote classes. So it's not possible just to think of a question and type it up and give it to the students on a piece of paper. We, you know, we need other ways to do things. And one way that I have used a lot in my classes is to make my own questions on MyOpenMath. And so I can have a variety of questions. I can make sure I'm checking what I want to check from the students, getting the kind of feedback I want from them. And it's been really useful for me, especially, as I say, in this remote situation where I'm not seeing my students. I'm not able just to type up a question on a piece of paper and distribute it to the class and have them, you know, fill it in there and then. I mean, I have pretty much been relying on MyOpenMath as the platform for pretty much everything, because I can write my own questions. I would have had to use a variety of platforms. If I didn't have MyOpenMath, I'd have had to, you know, think of things to do on Blackboard, maybe different ways to create a greater variety of questions. But I've had everything in one place on MyOpenMath. Any questions from anybody?
Hi, Julie.
Hi,
This is
Maria.
Could you please show me the textbook you're using?
Sure, absolutely. All
Thank
right, so the textbook that we are using, a MyOpenMath textbook. I mean, not a MyOpenMath, an OpenStax textbook. And let me see, can I get there? Okay, all right, let's see. Oops, I'm showing people, I have no idea what I'm showing. All right, let's look here. Okay, that was the textbook. Okay. All right, wait a minute. I am not logged in. Let's see, I've got so many buttons from Zoom covering my screen. I can't see what I'm doing. Let's see, so, all right. Okay, let's try this. Okay. And oops, clear. Okay, do you see my screen? Am I sharing? Do you see the OpenStax screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So so basically, let's see. I've got some. Okay. Let me close this fella. Okay, there we go. So we're just, you know, straight up right now using an OpenStax textbook. We're using the Algebra and Trigonometry OpenStax textbook. So all of the MyOpenMath homeworks, okay, I've aligned their numbering with this textbook, which is, I mean, I like the textbook, and so I mean, anything, it's pretty much of a standard textbook. Let me see. Functions and function notation, sure, where are you? I mean, you know, it has pictures and definitions and examples and, you know, shows you, you know, worked examples. So you click the button and it shows you the solution, all those kind of things. And it has exercises at the end of each section, and it gives you the, you know, the answers to the exercises, all that kind of standard textbook stuff. Okay, where am I? Scroll down. Okay, so here are some exercises. It will, you know, you can click a link next to the odd numbered ones, and it gives you, let's see, it gives you the answer to that question. So it gives the students the answers to the odd numbered questions. I mean, it's, you know, a pretty standard kind of textbook. So it doesn't quite have everything that we're currently doing in 1350. It doesn't actually have circles is one of the issues. And so, you know, using LibreTexts will give us access to, you know, add some information about circles very easily. If we go that route, LibreText seems to expect us to like do a whole lot of other stuff, like get rid of all the sections that we're not teaching. And I'm not sure I want to do that. I actually like having a complete textbook, so but that's that may just be me. So but you know, and I'm not quite, haven't quite figured out how LibreText works and what we have to do to actually get a book that we can distribute to the students. But there are possibilities there with LibreText that we will finally get a textbook section on circles that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Are you all coding, or have you all left? So, Helen, yes.
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I wasn't coding. I was playing an MOM linear algebra course.
Okay.
Have to confess, yeah. From what I noticed, somebody, it doesn't correspond fully to our course, but the work somebody did, they put some videos. There's not much of a textbook, but there's video. But practically all assignments are mostly just posted PDFs.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't because either it was too hard to program this type of questions, or but it's but PDF assignments kind of look nice, but they look the same I post on Blackboard. Yeah.
Right.
But it's good video, some good videos. Pity it doesn't correspond 100% or even 70% to our learning outcomes, but it's so there's stuff, but I found only one linear algebra, but found a lot of college algebra. So there's obviously a lot of things to choose from. That's good.
Right. So you mean on My Open Math for questions? Yeah, that's what you're talking about. The My, yeah. I mean, so there are lots and lots of questions in the libraries. A lot of them are just rewrites of the same question, showing over and over and over, like somebody created it and then someone made some small edit, and then so when you get down to it, that lots of questions just seem like they just keep showing up in the libraries over and over and over. So that's why it's a good idea that, you know, we be able to do something slightly different, not just have the same questions showing up over and over and over, but actually go in a slightly, you know, take it in a slightly different direction to have some greater variety of questions. As I say, a lot of them are just, you know, one person made a copy of the exact same question and maybe changed the wording, something like that. All right, let's see, what time are we? Okay, we'll go till 4. Okay, does anyone, let's see, is anyone trying to code anything and need any help with any of the coding situation? Okay.
Julie, did you see the question in the chat?
Oh,
about making questions? Did you?
Let me see.
About writing your own questions?
Okay, let me see if I can find the chat. Okay. All right, let's see. Wallace. Okay, so I mean, I started writing. I mean, I started writing my own questions because, like, when we went remote, I felt like we actually needed to, and I was going to rely on My Open Math for tests and quizzes, which I had not been doing. So the fact that sometimes the questions didn't specify how many decimal places they wanted an answer to, those kinds of things. Was okay when it was homework, because then the students would have multiple attempts at a question. But when we went remote and I was relying on My Open Math for quizzes and tests, which I only give students one attempt for, then I felt that the questions needed to be more precise. That's where I got started. You know, if question asked for, you know, an answer and it was a decimal number, I went in and I started putting in how many decimal places I wanted the answer to. And So then that kind of led from one thing to another, that once I realized that it was not that difficult to change the code, then I started to have ideas about more things that I could do. But it actually started just trying to tidy things up so that the questions would actually be reliable for tests. And I wouldn't be, being kind of vague in a question, and it would not be fair to a student who would only get one attempt at that question. So it was an attempt to tighten things up right at the beginning. But once you get into it and you see that you can make all these kinds of questions, and there are many questions in the libraries, but as I say, some of them, a lot of them are just repeats of each other. So I've just found it really valuable if I just want to make like a little tweak, like for a test. So it's not the exact same question that students have seen in their homework, so there'll be something slightly different in a test. They're just changing a sign, making it be like a minus, one of the coefficients be negative instead of positive, that kind of thing, just so they're not literally repeating the same questions that they had in their homework, that they're sitting there in an unproctored test with their notes from their homework, and I provided them with the step-by-step solutions in their homework. They have everything they need. So in order to not have them just be doing exactly the same questions, I started to tweak the questions a little bit, so that they would be slightly different questions, that having their notes from the homework would not be sufficient to get them through a test. Their test questions would be coming from a slightly different pool. As I say, the pool on my open math is not quite as big as you think it is. So I felt like at some point I had to start making my own questions, as I say, basically so that my tests would be solid tests that the students could answer, because the instructions were very clear, much clearer than they were originally, and that I would have some different questions given my test. That was my original driving force. Any other questions? As I say, a lot of this was driven by our move to remote learning. I was making do. Up until we had to move to remote learning, I was making do with the questions that were available to us in the libraries. There were enough of them. They covered enough variety of topics. It was really the move to remote learning where I was relying on the software for absolutely everything that drove me to, see what we could do with it. That I needed more tools in my tool belt when we were remote than I had needed when we were face to face. And my open math turned out to be a great tool. Yes, Helen.
Sorry, I'm obviously asking too many questions. I'm just so sorry for hijacking it. What is, in your view, advantage of writing questions in MOM opposite to writing questions in Blackboard test? Because you can pool questions there too, so students will have different questions.
So, I mean, yes, you can pool them, but then, I mean, you still have a pool of, 4 different questions. Four different kinds of, four different numbers. But with the my open math, I mean, everybody gets different numbers. It's not just that you're cycling through 4 different sets of numbers. You're cycling through, every student having actually got different numbers. So that, to me, is what's.
Yeah, but you can do more than 4 in Blackboard. Yeah, but of course it's, and you can vary equation more, but yeah, no, I see your point.
I mean, if you're on Blackboard and you want a pool of 10 questions, you have to create every one of those 10 questions.
Yes, that's
Whereas
true.
I create one question and every student sees different numbers. So yes, if I didn't have my open math, I would have found other ways to do these kinds of things, and Blackboard would absolutely have been one of them. And in fact, I'm hoping that, in the near future, you might give us a session on creating questions on Blackboard because, if we're looking at having, 1350 is currently being taught on 2 different platforms. If we actually create the 0104 OER, then 0104 will be taught on 2 different platforms. It does complicate things like departmental final exams. And so I'm interested in having departmental final exams on Blackboard so that everybody can be using the same platform. So I absolutely am interested in Blackboard.
Yeah, I think that what your MOM and Blackboard could be used in combination. Blackboard, in what I found, and I know kind of taught myself Blackboard, and I found that editor wonderful, and I can put any pictures in the question and fill in the blanks and compute the formulas and so on, which means that there could vary numbers for each student, but it's very good for short quizzes. I do practically quizzes in every class, very small percentage of the grade, but just to make sure that people actually involved. They have to enter something.
Right, absolutely.
They work in groups.
So I mean, but I had meant to say that earlier, that I have been doing like activities in class on my open math, and I can do that because I know that every student has access to it. If I was using Pearson, I've always had 1 or 2 students in the class who at some time or other didn't have access to the Pearson software. And so it would not be good practice to, have graded class activities that required them to be using Pearson. But I do that all the time in using my open math because everybody has access to it. So like I have 2 or 3 different times during class where they do like a question that is only available for a limited time. They need a password to get in. They have to be in class to do that question in class. They do the question, I set the time of, 10 minutes or something. They do the question. Then I know that they've had some practice. And my students, I have 100% attendance in my class. That's graded, it's automatically graded my open math. And as I say, I wouldn't do it if I was using Pearson because some students would not have access to that, but I can do it with my open math. And so it takes care of, everybody's coming to class. The grades are, happening automatically. And that once again has been a really useful thing that I can do in our remote classes that keeps the students engaged during class.
It's the same with Blackboard. I do the same on the Blackboard. So I have good attendance, not 100%, but 90% for sure, because 3 or 4 times during the class, they're doing either individual or group assignments, which are submitted and automatically graded by Blackboard.
Absolutely.
And everybody has access to Blackboard.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So there are many ways to do these things.
Yeah, combination.
Absolutely.
Combination.
Absolutely. I have found, that my open math is really easy to do math things.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do math things with. So I've just put all my eggs in my open math basket because it does the math stuff very well. So anyway, so it is 4 o'clock. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Great. We learned a lot.
I hope that this was useful to everybody. As I say, it was a little detailed. If you have never even seen my open math before, I may have taken you straight to the heart of it a little too quickly, but as I say, if we have people who are willing and interested to dabble in creating their own questions, then it can be nothing but good. So I hope that you will go away and dabble just a little and see where it takes you. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks,
job,
Julie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope I'll see you all in person one day. So, take care, everybody.
It'll happen eventually.
Thank you.
Maybe.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Julie.
No, you're welcome.
Bye, Julie.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
What is leave button? Wait.
Are we all done? You want me to end it now?
We are done. Thank you very much. That was
Okay.
the end. Thank you.
Thank you. How did it go?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure whether my audience was quite ready for it. So it was kind of, you know, it was kind of hardcore programming stuff, and I'm not sure whether that was what people were actually expecting. But there we go. Some people were appreciating it, so, but I'm not sure that it was everybody's cup of tea. So, oh well.
Okay, so so it's I guess once I end it, it'll record to cloud, and you'll have to look it up under the meeting number, or someone will have to retrieve it for you.
Okay, because I have no idea how to do any of that, but okay.
Okay, but just to let you know that it will be saved. If I can get one of our technicians, just send me an email. I'll see about trying to get it to you if you need it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you too. Have a good week.
And you. Thank you. Bye.